Hey everybody, I'm so sorry I forgot to record this yesterday, so you're going to have two videos to work with today. So function of the digestive system. You ingest, you digest, and then you ingest food and then you digest the food. Ingestion is just basically chewing that food and getting it ready to be swallowed. Ingestion is totally done in the oral cavity. It's when you actually take and masticate or chew that food and make a bolus of food that's to be swallowed and go down the esophagus. Now, in the esophagus, no digestion takes place, just peristalsis. Peristalsis is a wave-like movement of food from the back of the throat down into the stomach. Mechanical digestion takes place in the mouth and in the stomach some. So all mechanical digestion takes place either in the oral cavity or the stomach itself. And that's where the food is actually broken down into smaller pieces that can be, the enzymes can then, hydrolysis reaction through chemical digestion can break those particles down into small enough nutrients that can be used by the cells and the tissues. So you have mechanical, and then you have chemical digestion. Mechanical digestion is just taking pieces of food and making them smaller. Chemical digestion is actually breaking down those smaller pieces of food and turning them into molecules of nutrition that can be absorbed and used in the tissues and cells. Other things that happen during digestion are secretion. We secrete a lot of enzymes and digestive fluids so foods can be broken down. That actually starts in the mouth. The saliva and mucus from the mucous membranes in the mouth are secreted to help lubricate the food so that it's broken down easily. Also, saliva has a small amount of amylase in it. Amylase is an enzyme from the pancreas that breaks down complex carbohydrates. So it takes polysaccharides, which are really long sugar chains, and starts to break those down. Absorption pretty much happens in the small intestine, and that's where after food passes through the esophagus and the stomach and it's ruminated and its enzymes have been activated and it breaks it down into a thick substance sort of like chyme, called chyme. It's kind of a pasty, heavy cream consistency. That goes into the small intestine where most absorption takes place. There is some water absorption that takes place in the large intestine, but primarily nutritional absorption takes place in the small intestine. And then elimination takes place in the rectum via the rectum and the anus via defecation or a bowel movement. And those are materials that the body can't break down and digest and utilize in another part of the body. Organization of the digestive system. So organs of the digestive system, basically it is one long canal, and then you have some accessory organs like the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the salivary glands. Those are accessory organs, the teeth, the tongue, and the oral cavity. Those are accessory structures that help with digestion but don't actively complete digestion. So you have the mouth, the stomach, your esophagus, your large intestine, your small intestine, the rectum, and the anus. Those are the actual parts of the GI tract. And like I said, it's just one long tube. From the mouth to your rectum, it's just one long, windy tube. So there you can see all of the digestive system. Be sure that you learn this. I will give you a diagram because you will have this diagram on your test. The muscular portion or the movement in the GI system happens in three different ways. Peristalsis was one we talked about. That happens in the from the esophagus to the stomach, and then it also happens in the rectum for a bowel movement. And that's where we are basically just moving particles, moving food or moving undigested particles. We're either moving food from the mouth to the stomach via peristalsis or from the rectum to the anus, so that we may have may defecate and have a bowel movement to get rid of or eliminate waste products. The mixing of food, that happens in the oral cavity when saliva and mucus mix with your food. It also happens in the stomach where other enzymes mix with and other gastric fluids mix with the food to help break it down. And it happens in mechanical and chemical digesting. Segmentation happens in the small intestine, and that's basically where food is moved in multiple directions so that it can be absorbed in the digestive tract. So it happens mostly in the small intestines, but it helps us absorb and utilize nutrients more effectively. This is what the alimentary canal. That is that canal that runs from the mouth to the rectum or to the anus. That is this. This is what it looks like. You have mesentery, the mesentery enclosure, which is it's a very thick, fatty layer, and then under that you have mesenteric arteries and nerves. A lot goes on in the stomach. It needs to in the intestines. There needs to be a lot of vascularity in the abdominal cavity because of absorption and transportation of nutrients. Also, because it's very active, it needs a lot of oxygen and a lot of nutrients to make the process happen. You have glands that secrete mucosa, that secrete mucus. And then you also have lymph tissue that helps get rid of things that we can't deal with. So there's a lot going on in the stomach. There's a lot of nerve and a lot of vascularity under that layer of fatty tissue that everyone has. So this gives you a better diagram of what peristalsis versus segmentation is. Peristalsis is basically a one-way direction. It's moving stuff from the top down, whether that's in the esophagus or in the rectum. It's moving it from the top of the mouth or the top of the rectum down to the anus, or the top of the mouth down to the stomach. Segmentation is basically moving particles back and forth, sort of kind of like a washer does, moves them around and around, back and forth, so that the nutrients can be absorbed where they are supposed to be absorbed, and it can thin out or thicken up the chyme however it's needed. Regulation of the GI tract happens mostly initially in the autonomic nervous system. So you have the nervous system that controls it, hormones that control it, and then reflex reactions that control the GI system. The parasympathetic nervous system stimulates the GI tract, and the sympathetic nervous system stops it. So know that the autonomic nervous system, parasympathetic nerves initiate GI activity, and sympathetic nerves inhibit. They stop it. They stop gastrin from being produced. Hormones. Gastrin is one of those hormones that is produced, and some of those hormones come from endocrine glands, such as the pancreas, and some of them come from the GI tract itself, and they help digestion be initiated and then halted. Reflex mechanism, that happens in different regions of the GI tract, especially the stomach and the small intestine, where reflexes are stimulated to inhibit or interact and make one another work, either start and stop, related to different reflexes within the GI tract. So there's your diagram of kind of how the nervous system controls the GI tract. You know, you see it, you see food, you smell food, as you taste food, then the brain starts to activate different things to happen. The central nervous system sends those chemoreceptors down to start different acid production and different hormonal production, so that the stomach is ready once that food gets there to break it down and then get it ready for absorption. The oral cavity itself, or the mouth, that's where food enters. It's broken down mechanically by mastication. Like I said, your saliva does have amylase, and it breaks down polysaccharides into disaccharides. So polysaccharides means many sucrose, long chains of sucrose, and it breaks it down into just double chains of two molecules of sucrose. The tongue is there to help with movement and manipulation of the food during mastication. It also has your taste buds, so that's connected to the brain so that you can taste food, and so that it tells us whether it's actually good or rancid, or kind of whether it's salty, sweet. Once we have chewed food and it's mixed with saliva and mucus from the mucosal membrane, it becomes something called a bolus. Bolus is what actually a food bolus is actually what enters the esophagus to be transported down to the stomach. In the esophagus, absolutely no digestion takes place, just peristalsis, just movement of food. So important things to know about your teeth. They are adapted for mastication or for mechanical digestion. A small child has about 20 deciduous or primary teeth, 20 teeth when you're small. And then we have 32 permanent teeth as adults. We have 4 different types, so I would know we have a child has 20 teeth, an adult has 32. I would know that there are 4 types of teeth. Incisors are for cutting, canines are for tearing, premolars are for crushing, and molars are for grinding. And they're in a 2, like we have 2 incisors, we have 1 canine on each side. We have 2 premolars and 3 molars. So that's what that 2, 1, 2, 3 means. Basically how your teeth are set up. And on the right, you can see what teeth you have at what age. The 3rd molar or the wisdom tooth generally comes in later in life. Usually by the age of 13 or 14, we have all of the permanent teeth that we keep. Many people have to have wisdom teeth removed because there's not enough space, they're going in a wrong direction. Different things are happening with wisdom teeth that happen to have them removed. Salivary glands. What's important to know about salivary glands are there are 3 pairs of salivary glands: parotid, submandibular, and sublingual. So they're there to secrete saliva. They are activated by the vagal nerve. And that happens when we see things or taste things or smell things that we like or maybe sometimes that we don't like. That saliva is there to lubricate the food so that we can swallow it without choking. Saliva is 99.5% water, and then 5% of it is bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate, and amylase. Amylase is there to start to break down those sugars. Bicarbonate is there to keep the pH in the mouth neutral, also to help with acidic foods, to balance out acidic foods. And then you also have some electrolytes, some sodium, potassium, things like that in your saliva. So there's where you see your salivary glands. These are the submandibular, and this would be your sublingual, and this would be your parotid. So this would be your parotid. This would be your parotid. That is your submandibular, and this is your parotid salivary gland. Your stomach. Your stomach is basically just this pouch that is there for food storage for just a little bit of time. It's going to hold food for anywhere from 30 minutes to 3 to 4 hours. Be sure that you know that mechanical and chemical digestion occur in the stomach. It contains 2 sphincters, and you'll need to know where they are. The cardiac sphincter is at the top where the esophagus attaches to the stomach. The pyloric sphincter is at the bottom of the stomach where the stomach attaches to the small intestine. There are 4 regions of the stomach. The very top near the cardiac sphincter is considered the cardiac portion of the stomach. The fundic part of the stomach is sort of the rounded hump at the top. Then you have the long section that's called the body of the stomach, and then you have the pyloric area, which is there where the intestine and the stomach meet, where that pyloric sphincter is. Also in the stomach, you have something called rugae. Rugae is very elastic, wrinkled up, wavy looking, a portion of the stomach. It secretes. It secretes hormones. It helps with digestion and absorption, but it can expand an exorbitant amount of space. Like it can expand up to about the size of a football in some cases. So that rugae, it stretches and snaps back, as we eat. As you can see here on the left, this is an image. So you have the esophagus here. There, your cardiac sphincter would be in this area. This is the cardiac portion of the stomach. The fundus would be this hump, this rounded section. This would be the body, and here at the bottom we have the pyloric sphincter. You have the pyloric portion, and this would be the rugae, those wrinkles and lines of continuous stretchy material. And as you can see here on the actual diagram of a dissected stomach, there's tons of rugae in that stomach. Gastric secretion. So you guys should remember these from your quiz. So chief and parietal cells are very important and must work together to activate pepsinogen and make it pepsin, which can break down protein. Parietal cells, like I said, they secrete pepsinogen that must have to have the hydrochloric acid from the parietal cells to be activated, break down protein. Also, parietal cells, they secrete intrinsic factor. Intrinsic factor is important for B12 absorption. B12 absorption is important so that we do not develop anemia. People who take a lot of who drink a lot of alcohol, alcoholics, or people who are chronic habitual drug users tend to mess up their stomach where they do not, those parietal cells do not make intrinsic factor, and they're not able to absorb B12 through nutrition, so they have to have it in the form of an injection or in an IV, depending on how significant it is. Mucosal cells are very important because they secrete an alkaline substance, bicarbonate, which helps neutralize hydrochloric acid in the gastric juices when they're not actively being used. It also helps prevent us from getting ulcers. Also, then we have G cells. G cells secrete hormones called gastrin. They are very important. Gastrin is basically what starts all digestion. Without gastrin being secreted, that hormone, we would not be able to stimulate the other cells and secrete the hormones that we need so that the other hormones that we need so that we would be able to digest food. So this is what your gastric cells look like. Okay, I am pretty sure that this is where the other video stops, so I'm going to stop here, and then you'll have your additional video for today so that you can get through and get current with everybody else. All right, you guys have a great day.